On the night of March 1st, 1932, a storm of fear, grief, and national outrage descended upon America. It began not with a bomb blast or a declaration of war, but with the disappearance of a single, innocent child. This was the night the son of America's hero vanished, and the world held its breath. To understand the magnitude of this crime, we must first understand its central figure, Charles A. Lindbergh. Just 5 years prior, in May 1927, Lindbergh had captivated the globe with his solo non-stop flight across the Atlantic in the spirit of St. Louis. He was more than an aviator. He was a symbol of courage, ingenuity, and the limitless American spirit. Adored by millions, he was a living legend. His wife, Anne Morrow Lindbergh, herself an accomplished aviator and author, came from a prominent, wealthy family. Together, they represented a kind of American royalty, celebrated and admired. Seeking a respite from the relentless public eye, the Lindberghs built a secluded, sprawling estate on a remote hilltop in Hopewell, New Jersey. It was meant to be their sanctuary, a private haven for their growing family, far from the madding crowds. Their first child, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., born in June 1930, was a cherished addition. On the evening of March 1, 1932, the 20-month-old baby Lindy was put to bed in his crib on the second floor of the isolated country home. The family retired for the night, unaware that their carefully constructed world was about to be shattered. At approximately 10 p.m., the baby's nurse, Betty Gow, returned to the nursery to check on little Charles. What she found sent a cold dread through the household. The crib was empty. The window above it was open, despite the chilly night, and a faint breeze stirred the curtains. A small, muddy footprint was visible on the floor below the window. A frantic search of the house began. Charles Lindbergh himself quickly discovered a crude, homemade wooden ladder propped against the outside of the nursery wall, extending up to the open window. It was clear, this was no accidental disappearance. It was a kidnapping. Lying on the nursery windowsill was a note, scrawled in broken English, with distinct misspellings and grammatical errors. It read, "Dear Sir, have $50,000 ready, $25,000 in $20 bills, $20,000 in $10 bills, and $5,000 in $5 bills. After 2 to 4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money. We warn you for making anything public or for notify the police. The child is in gut care. Indication for all letters are signature and 3 holes. 2 interlocking circles with a smaller circle inside, and 3 square holes." The magnitude of the situation immediately hit Lindbergh. This was not just a personal tragedy. It was an attack on the very ideal he represented. Despite the kidnapper's warning, the police were immediately notified. Within hours, news of the kidnapping exploded across the nation and the world. The crime of the century was born. America, still reeling from the Great Depression, clung to Lindbergh as a beacon of hope, and now his personal tragedy became the nation's shared nightmare. Police swarmed the Hopewell estate, but initial efforts were hampered by the sheer volume of curiosity seekers and reporters who trampled potential evidence. Every lead was pursued, every eccentric tip investigated. The FBI, then a much smaller agency, became involved, as did various underworld figures who, surprisingly, offered their help to locate the child, eager to gain favor with the national hero. Al Capone, even from prison, offered his services in exchange for release. A retired Bronx school principal, Dr. John Condon, known as Jafsy, entered the picture, publishing an offer in the newspaper to act as an intermediary and pay the ransom. Miraculously, the kidnapper, or someone claiming to be them, responded, initiating a harrowing series of coded messages and secret rendezvous. On April 2, 1932, Condon met a shadowy figure in a cemetery, exchanging $50,000 in marked gold certificates for a note claiming the baby was on a boat called the Nellie near Martha's Vineyard. But the boat was never found. The hopes of a nation, briefly lifted, were about to be dashed. On May 12, 1932, a truck driver accidentally discovered the partially decomposed body of a baby in a shallow grave just 4.5 miles from the Lindbergh estate. It was identified as Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr. The medical examination confirmed the child had died from a massive skull fracture, likely at the moment he was taken or shortly thereafter, falling from the makeshift ladder. The nation collectively grieved. The focus of the investigation shifted from rescue to retribution. But the trail grew cold. Despite the recovery of the ransom money, no one could effectively track it as it slowly circulated through the public. The three small holes in the ransom note, the ladder's unique construction, and the distinctive handwriting became the few concrete clues in a sea of speculation. The case languished for over 2 years, becoming one of the most frustrating and high-profile unsolved mysteries in American history. The breakthrough came in September 1934. Thanks to President Roosevelt's executive order, all gold certificates were being recalled from circulation, forcing those holding the ransom money to exchange it for new currency. A gas station attendant in New York City became suspicious when a man paid with a $10 gold certificate that had a distinctive serial number. He meticulously wrote down the license plate of the car. The car belonged to Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German immigrant and carpenter living in the Bronx. When police searched his garage, they found over $14,000 of the marked Lindbergh ransom money hidden in various locations, including a secret compartment. The evidence against Hauptmann quickly mounted. The wood used to construct the crude ladder, which was left at the crime scene, was found to match the wood from Hauptmann's attic floorboards, right down to the grain and specific planing marks. Expert handwriting analysts linked his penmanship to the ransom notes. And despite his claims of being framed, the sheer volume of money and the damning forensic evidence began to paint a terrifying picture. The trial of Bruno Richard Hauptmann began on January 2, 1935, in Flemington, New Jersey. It was a media circus of unprecedented scale. Reporters from around the world descended on the small town. Celebrities, socialites, and ordinary citizens jostled for a seat in the courtroom. The prosecution, led by David T. Willans, presented a mountain of circumstantial and forensic evidence. The matching ladder wood, the thousands of dollars in marked ransom money found in Hauptmann's possession, the handwriting analysis, and the testimony of John Condon, who identified Hauptmann as the man he met in the cemetery. Charles Lindbergh himself testified, identifying Hauptmann's voice from the ransom exchange. Hauptmann's defense argued he was innocent, claiming the money was left with him by a deceased business partner named Isidore Fish, and that he was simply holding it. His alibi for the night of the kidnapping was also shaky. However, his calm demeanor and unconvincing explanations under cross-examination did little to sway the jury. After weeks of sensational testimony, the jury deliberated for just 11 hours. On February 13, 1935, they delivered their verdict, guilty of murder in the first degree. Hauptmann was sentenced to death. Despite his conviction and subsequent execution in April 1936, doubts about Hauptmann's sole guilt have persisted for decades. Some believed he was merely part of a larger conspiracy, a pawn in a more complex plot. Others pointed to alleged police misconduct or the possibility of an accomplice who was never caught. The public fascination with the case never truly waned, fueled by books, documentaries, and ongoing investigations into the 20th century. Regardless of these lingering questions, the Lindbergh kidnapping had a profound and lasting impact on American society and law enforcement. The sheer scale of the crime and the national anguish it caused led directly to the passage of the Lindbergh Law in 1932. This federal statute made kidnapping across state lines a federal crime, giving the FBI greater jurisdiction and power to investigate such cases. The case also demonstrated the overwhelming power of the burgeoning mass media to shape public perception and, at times, hinder investigations. It was a stark reminder that even America's most celebrated figures were not immune to the horrors of the criminal underworld. The Lindbergh family, shattered by the tragedy and hounded by relentless public attention, eventually left the United States seeking privacy. The beautiful Hopewell estate, once a sanctuary, became a monument to a nation's lost innocence. The story of baby Lindy remains one of the most infamous and tragic chapters in American true crime history, a testament to an era gripped by fear, fame, and a mystery that continues to haunt us over a century later.